Oh, hello. I'm Stevie. I collect video games. Mostly old stuff. Like a lot of people as they get older, I find myself returning to the past to revisit old favorites and try and find stuff I might have missed along the way. But as a result of that, over the last few years, I've played a lot of games that were new to me, but didn't really, have a lasting impact or anything. So today, I want to talk about a game that has stuck with me ever since I first played it as a little kid. It's a game that sorry, I'm a little on edge. I haven't been sleeping very well lately. But let's just get started. Can I ask you a question? Do you ever have bad dreams? As a kid, I was lucky enough to grow up in a household where my parents gave my sisters and I the freedom to watch or listen to whatever caught our interest. Weekly visits to the grocery store usually led to a lap around the nearby Blockbuster, where I would immediately hit the horror section. Some of my earliest memories are seeing Freddy Krueger's face and reading that title for the first time, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Needless to say, I've been a fan ever since. Around this time, I remember playing a lot of NES in our basement on an old TV set that had been discarded in favor of the giant console television that occupied our living room upstairs. The NES originally belonged to my oldest sister, Chrissy, but I don't remember her playing it all that much. I don't even recall having a say in what games we had for it. Kirby was there, Mario 3 of course, Lode Runner, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. We were a horror house, so any one of us could have asked my parents for it, but again, I was like 5, so I don't remember. But I do remember playing this game a lot. The premise of the game is a lot like the movies. Teenagers in the neighborhood are mysteriously dying in their sleep, but none of the adults seem to think they are connected. It's up to you and your remaining friends to search the locations up and down Elm Street, gather up all of Freddy's bones, and find a way to destroy them. Sounds simple enough, right? Wrong. The main complaint this game seems to get is the old, where do I go and what do I do? You have to keep in mind that games of this era didn't have tutorials and hand-holding wasn't yet a design philosophy. Oftentimes you would have to reference the manual in order to know what was ahead of you before diving into a game. I think modern-day reviewers play games like these for 5 minutes, get stuck, and boot up the next game on their emulator with a bad taste in their mouth. Even if you don't own the original manual for whatever reason, you can usually find most gaming manuals online in PDF form and learn everything you need to know. The internet is crazy. Plus, if this guy could figure it out, you can too. The game begins with your character wandering the streets around midnight, which would explain why most locations are unavailable until you find the keys to access them. There are houses, a cemetery, a junkyard, the Thompson House, and Elm Street High School. The residential houses make up the first 3 levels, and each time you boot up the game you access them in a different order, which I think is cool. Once inside the levels, you are greeted by bats, huge rats, and giant spiders. The platforming is also a bit tricky at times, but luckily the jumping mechanics are easy to control and very floaty. Your only attack is a punch with limited range, however, there are other ways to fight the baddies, but at a price. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. All of this running around and bone collecting takes a toll on your energy meter. If that bar runs out of squares, you fall asleep and wake up in the dream world. The architecture of the levels remain the same, but the enemies are now transformed into skeletons, ghosts, and whatever these demon dudes are supposed to be. Speaking of Freddy, don't stay in the dreams too long or he will find you. These are admittingly easy encounters, but the build up to them always feels stressful with that little tune you can't get out of your head. In order to wake up from the nightmare, keep an eye out for boomboxes scattered throughout the dream world. Or if you want to avoid being asleep altogether, just make sure you're grabbing those cups of coffee in the regular world to stay awake. Now, I said you had other abilities and that they would come at a price. The price is the aforementioned nightmare phase of the game, but the trade-off is these special abilities you can only access when you're asleep. As long as you have found each of the 3 power-ups while you're awake, you can utilize them in the dream world at any time. Just like in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, the teens have unique powers to help aid them in their survival. There is the Acrobat, who has a lofty somersault jump and can throw javelins, the Shadow Ninja, who throws ninja stars and has a crucial jumping kick attack, and the Necromancer, a wizard master of sorts who throws orbs of magic as an attack and has the floatiest jump of the 3. Each one of these abilities will come in very handy at different points in the game, and you can switch to any of them using the select button on the controller. After collecting all of the bones in each section of a level, you will activate the boss battle and summon a different variation of Freddy each time. Fail to collect all of the bones and you are forced to backtrack and find the ones that you missed. Avoid this at all costs, because going through the levels backwards is not easy. The boss battles could definitely have been more creative in their sprite designs, which is my only real complaint with the game. Such a wasted opportunity to not have to fight a television set or a giant snake? A couple of these are cool though. The Freddy head that lunges and bites off tongues is pretty gross, and the floating glove is technically from Nightmare 4, so at least there was some effort. The only one I actually hate is the gargoyle bat thing with the cute little buck teeth.
Hey there, little fella. Are you lost?
After defeating each boss, you will receive a key, wake up from the nightmare, and find yourself once again wandering down Elm Street. It's up to you to explore and figure out which location you're supposed to go to next, but at least the order once you've completed the house levels is the same every time. Even if you get lost for a bit, you'll have this awesome song to keep you company. The music in the game really is top-notch, which is no surprise in retrospect, since it was composed by David Wise. As the in-house music guy at Rare, which is the developer who made this game, Wise did the music for a lot of my favorite games on the NES. Years later, he would go on to compose the music for one of the biggest games of all time. But that's not why we're here. The final level is Elm Street High School, easily the longest and most difficult level with tons of enemies and very cruel jumps. Pretty much every enemy you've had to deal with throughout the game are all here. It's chaos. How the hell are you supposed to get through this?
Focus on the bats.
Looks pretty tough, huh? Well, consider this. If you can only fight Freddy in your dreams, why not just fall asleep one last time? At the beginning of the level, just stand there and wait for your sleep meter to go all the way down. It won't take long if you aren't moving around. This is a personal recommendation, of course, but it's honestly so fitting. Every Nightmare movie finale involves whoever is left at the end purposely falling asleep to take Freddy and the nightmare head on. Why should the video game be any different? Unfortunately, this is where I leave you, dreamers. I'm no Nancy Thompson, so it's up to you to finish the game and escape the nightmare on your own. Maybe I'll see you back here next time, if you're still around, that is. Now if I could only wake up and get back to the collection.